Hi, I'm Praneeth, and welcome to my show, The Active Hour, where we discuss health and fitness, nutrition, and the blueprint to enhance your vitality. My guest today is Frank Cortese. Frank's a true pioneer and advocate for the sport of triathlon in Dallas, Texas. In 2006, he made the transition into a full time coaching and race directing profession. He also deeply cares about his athletes and always makes time to offer that extra help, provide advice, or simply lend an ear. He legitimately guided hundreds of athletes on their journey to achieve their goals. And this was my conversation with him. Hey coach, how's it going? How are you doing?
Good. How are you, man? It's good to see you, Praneeth.
I'm good. I'm so excited for the event you're going to do this Saturday, the Curville. I'm sad that I'm missing it, but I'm super excited that you've already posted another extra open water swim. So I'm super
Yes.
excited.
See, we can't get you. I told my wife, I told Deborah that I couldn't get you
Yeah.
out of the water now. I couldn't get you in. I couldn't get you back
Yeah.
out. That's good. You
So
did really
funny.
well.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You've been coaching and racing for so long, right? What is the
hmm
most challenging part of this?
Most challenging part of coaching and racing. You know what? Is it okay if I split that apart? We talk
Yes,
coaching and then I'll talk
absolutely.
about racing part of it.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
coaching challenges. The challenges in coaching are really keeping up right now. That they've changed over the years. Let's put it that way. What was a challenge when I
Sure.
started doing this 20 years ago, and what's a challenge now is not the same thing. So I think probably if we were talking about today, well, the biggest challenge when I first started was learning how to build a brand and how to learn and how to be a student of swim, bike, and run, how to be an athlete of swim, bike, and run, how to be a coach of swim, bike, and run. So really how to learn and take that academic type learning, but put it into practical, street learning and put it together and, come out with something where you could guide somebody, not just read something out of a book. So really, I think starting off was finding my way as a coach was the biggest challenge is what I'm trying to say.
Gotcha.
Figuring out what my style of coaching was going to be and how I was going to do it. And then, along the way, technology started to pick up. So if I go from the very beginning, now if I go all the way to the other extreme to right now, and there's lots of things I could talk about in between. Probably technology right now, because technology has come on so fast and so strong, keeping up with the technological advances, but keeping it in perspective with all those things I learned, 20 plus years ago, because it's still the same stuff, but it's being administered and it's being processed by people differently now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, as people now they process they take input for information so differently right now, and there's so many different generations in play that I work with, and they all take in what they're working on or they're doing or they're training for differently. And with the technology part added into it, I think keeping up with the technology as a coach, but also not losing sight of the my knowledge base, I guess is what I'm going to say, and putting those together. So technology probably.
So let's talk a little bit more about the technology. What do you think with the AI enhancements and everything? How can this be more helpful in terms of enhancing an athlete's performance?
I think it can be really great. Now, I definitely have to predicate that with I'm definitely not an AI expert, but I'm going to learn about it. I mean, it's obviously here. It's here to
Yeah.
stay. I want to learn to use it as a tool like everybody else. I think it can really enhance because it can do some of the stuff that I used to do as a coach that were the kind of the boring everyday things.
Yeah.
You write a workout, you write a particular, let's say, an interval workout with a goal for somebody. And this is just one example I know that people are already doing that, I'm going to learn how to implement myself. And as you progress with that athlete and they become more fit and their training comes along, you want to change that workout to continue to challenge them as an athlete so they grow and they progress. You can have AI do that stuff for you and take that workout and do that. And that part of it, I think it's okay that AI does that because then I can be the human side of it that guides that person through that process. So really some of the stuff where I used to sit down and take, many, many, many hours to sit down and write a training plan for somebody I was working with maybe one on one. I think AI, well, I don't think, I know it is, it's going to
Yeah.
greatly reduce the amount of time I have to spend there where I can be out there with people, interacting with them more when it comes to one-on-one situations like they're writing a training plan. So,
Gotcha. You've been a vegan guy for many, many years, right? When did you shift this transition from meat to a vegan guy? And how's it going?
first of all, it's going phenomenal. I haven't looked back since I started. When did I start? It's been so long now that I don't remember when I started. I
Okay.
was, I think the best way I could share it with you is to say that way back in, oh gosh, probably the late 80s, I was a
Okay.
vegetarian for quite
Yeah.
a while. And I became a vegetarian back then for very, very different, similar reasons to why I went vegan today, but not as many reasons as I have today. But I became a vegetarian. I went back temporarily in part of the 90s, went back on meat for a little while. I went back on meat briefly, but I went back on meat, and I only would eat meat products uh, that were humanely acquired. We'll leave it that way. At
Okay.
that,
Yeah.
it was very important to me that the energy that went into it was such that there was respect for life shown to what I was going to eat.
Okay.
And I went back on meat briefly and did that, but then one day I thought, this is just not doing it for me. I'm still, no matter what the energy is, so I went full vegan. So the next time I started vegetarian, and I swing to full vegan. I would probably say if I had to put a number on it, I have been vegan for well over a decade now, at least, if
Wow.
not more. So,
Okay.
probably for 2/3 of my life, I've been either vegetarian or vegan. So, and I'm
Okay.
58 now. So,
What are the common misconceptions that athletes might have for vegan, and how do you address that?
the most common one for anybody is, first of all, they assume that it's not as bad as it used to be, but they assume that vegans are small, puny, weak
Yeah.
people. And I'm not a small, puny, weak person. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not a bodybuilder, but I think the most common misconception is probably that you can't get enough protein in. There are so many different ways to get protein in that you don't have to get it necessarily from meat sources. But you've got to make sure if you're going to be a vegan, you've got to make sure that you're not just like eating, tortilla chips and salsa. you
Yeah.
know, or you've got to make sure that you're eating lots of color. And but probably the most biggest misconception is you can't get enough protein. There's
Gotcha.
hemp, there's green, different types of green vegetables have protein in them. There's soy, there's pea, there's just endless numbers. They've just now, I haven't read the report, but a nutritionist that I trust has shared with us that pistachios now they're saying are a complete protein. So pistachios are actually not just a nut with good fat and
I see.
protein, but they
Yeah.
also have a lot of the uh, oh gosh, the word escapes me right now. There's a word I'm looking for to make them a complete protein, but they're another source of to get that. So that's probably
Gotcha.
the biggest misconception is that you can't do all the things and eat and live, and you can.
Yeah.
So
How do you approach your nutrition when it's vegan? So let's say, what do you eat in a day?
so a lot of times I will start because my schedule is I love my schedule, but it can be all over the place. It's not like I get up every day at this time, but not even that. It's not that I'm at a desk at 8 or 9 o'clock, and then I get up for lunch at 12, and I go back to my desk and get up at 5. My day is all over the
Yeah.
place. Some like today, I swam myself personally 5 o'clock this morning,
Wow.
and then
Okay.
did some event work, did a video session with somebody, videotaped them, and did a swim lesson with them, and then raced back here to talk to you.
Yeah.
But in between that, my partner had a meeting for a new event we're taking on, a new bike rally, the Mesquite Rodeo Rally. And so, having a day like that, I'll usually will start the day knowing that it's going to be all over and I can't sit down. My first preference is always to have real food, stuff that's
Okay.
not processed at all, if possible. Lots of vegetables. Color, color, color. I voraciously like. It sounds really weird, but if I have color in front of me, I had a salad last night. My wife made that had probably 10 different colors in it, and
Yeah.
I just looked like something out of a horror movie. I was just like shoveling in this color, and it really affects me the way meat affects a lot of people. You know,
Yeah.
it's I've noticed that I crave it, but I don't always get that color. So what I do is, to answer your question, is I start my day off with a product called Vega that I like, and it's a vegan meal replacement. And I
Okay.
love the guy that owns the company is a professional triathlete and a vegan. So I'll start my morning with that piece of bread, Ezekiel bread, which is really good, very hearty piece of bread with
Okay.
no gluten. There's no flour in it. I try to stay away from gluten when I can as well. I don't have a gluten allergy, but I definitely have a gluten intolerance. But I put peanut butter on it. I pour my first protein of the day is I pour hemp seed all over that, and I have
Okay.
that with that shake, and I put fruit on top of it, and I have my cup of coffee, a little OJ, and that's usually what kickstarts me in the morning. And then I try to make sure that later in the day, that in the afternoon, I'll have color, like I said, and then a good dinner. It doesn't always happen that way, so we usually have things on standby at the house that are vegan. Some
Yeah.
processed stuff, unfortunately. There's some really great cheeses and things to make sandwiches that are processed, but I
Yeah.
try to limit that if I can. So, but uh, but yeah, and then dinner wise, I have a wife that's an amazing vegan cook. She's learned
Okay.
how to cook all I'm Italian.
Yeah.
She's learned how to cook all my favorite Italian dishes vegan. So we have
Okay.
lasagna that's vegan. We have bolognese that's vegan. She's just amazing at cooking it. So,
Is
we
she all
usually have
vegan
stuff.
too?
She's vegetarian, so she'll
Oh,
eat
she's
some dairy.
vegetarian. Okay.
Yep, yep. We went. Yep. So she'll eat cheese. She'll eat eggs, but she doesn't eat any meat at all. So she'll have seafood on occasion. So she's probably more pescatarian than vegetarian, but she rarely has seafood, just every once in a while.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I think the biggest challenge probably as a vegan too is the second thing is you've got to you've got to think, and you have to prepare your food. And I know so many people that have gone vegan that just don't do it in a healthy manner. They don't think
Yeah.
through having to get the things they need, the ingredients to put together a meal from scratch. And to me, that's more respect for that food as well that you're going through that's done that. I don't take that for granted that I actually get to eat. So, but if you rely too much on processed stuff, it doesn't really, if somebody's doing it for health reasons and you're
Yeah.
using a lot of processed stuff to be a vegan, I kind of think that you cancels it out to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So anyway, I could go on and on, but I'll shut up. You'll have to edit
No
everything out.
problem. Yeah. And you mentioned that you don't crave for meat anymore, right? But what happens when you
No,
crave? You don't ever crave for it?
no, I don't. Matter of fact, the smell of meat makes me sick to my stomach now. That I don't want to describe it for your
Yeah.
listeners and stuff, but it's got a sickeningly sweet.
Yeah.
It's got a certain odor to it now that
Yeah.
um, it makes me sick to my stomach. It's really crazy, but it does. It really does. So, I
Gotcha.
mean, there's times I'll smell somebody barbecuing, and I think in a barbecue situation, you're smelling more of the spices and stuff that they're barbecuing
Yeah.
and the meat smell. But like our dogs, we make their food from scratch, and sometimes we have to cook chicken for them, and we'll get chicken from a source that's it's chicken, it's real chicken, it's big, it's
Yeah.
thick, it's white.
Yeah.
It's not the yellow thin stuff that you buy at. I'm
Yeah.
not going to say any store names to offend anybody,
Yeah.
but my point in that is
Yeah.
Deborah will cook it in the kitchen. I have to leave the room sometimes because it makes me sick
Oh
to my stomach.
wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
the many years ago before I was vegan, I was mentioning to you that time about the Hindu temple that's close to us,
Yeah.
College Humvees, and there's a wonderful buffet there. Well, I remember many years ago that McDonald's wanted to they ended up doing it. They were building a McDonald's about a block from the temple, and the temple
Oh
people
shit.
were
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
begging them, please don't. And I didn't get it back then, but these
Yeah.
people, I mean,
Yeah.
it's so important to them. And this particular College Hanjis, I believe, is Hare Krishna, and
Okay.
they're vegetarian. And the smell was so offensive to them, and I didn't get it back then. This was decades
Yeah.
ago. I get it now. I really
Yeah.
feel, yeah.
Yeah. A
So,
lot of my friends are vegetarians too. Like they just can't stand the smell of it. Not
oh
even
yeah.
the sight. Yeah. They throw up and there's like hardcore veg. A lot of people they don't even eat like garlic because it's too much
Oh wow.
spices and stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, I became a vegan too. I kind of call myself a triple threat vegan, and whenever I appreciate you asking me about it because I really try to. I love to talk. I love to talk about it. I like to talk about it though in a very just like we're talking about it now. I
Yeah.
think sometimes when somebody says they're vegan, you can see people kind of take a step back because they think they're vegan, judgmental shame for
Yeah.
whatever they're doing. And I just that makes me so angry,
Yeah.
because I'd rather have a dialogue with somebody like you about being a vegan. But I became a vegan. I call myself a triple threat vegan because I did it for environmental reasons. I
Okay.
did it for uh, sociological reasons, environmental, sociological. I kind of put them together sometimes. I did it for health reasons, and I did it for animal welfare reasons. Just the complete lack of respect for life
Understood.
that
Yeah.
the food industry has for animals. Um,
Yeah, I think it's very true.
so
So,
anyway, that kind of tells you there for me. But I call myself a triple threat vegan. So, but I didn't mean for that to take over the conversation. Sorry.
no, no, that's okay. Then how do you recover better? Because there's need like this hardcore pure protein for you to like recover from your hard exercises, long endurance training. Because in vegan, as far as I know, there's no pure protein. It comes with some sort of either like carbohydrates or fats. So
Right.
how do you mix up that macros to make sure you hit certain number of protein, fats, and carbs?
Well, even like the protein, like we keep some pea protein on hand, powdered.
Okay.
We keep like some spirulina on hand, which doesn't have a high. It's got some protein in there,
Okay.
but
Okay. Yeah.
I'll also Vega has a recovery product that I'll use in a pinch. Like when I did the ride on Saturday out at the lake, I
Yeah.
had a Vega shake ready to go to
Okay.
fill in
Yeah.
the gaps. I'd rather get it, like I said, from those real food sources if I can. But if I'm in a situation like I am now, like I was then, where I'm out somewhere, I'll have that ready to go to drink it. And that Vega recovery product, I believe, has, I could be wrong on this, but I want to say 50, maybe even 60 grams of
Okay.
protein, which is pretty hefty. But it also has the macronutrients you're talking about as well, too. It's
Gotcha.
even got a
Yeah.
little bit of like tart cherry. I drink tart cherry, love tart cherry.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Um, but it's got that in there, so I'll make sure and get that. And they say that, honestly, they say that so many doctors now, and I have an internist that I just love to death. She's incredible. If you're leading a healthy lifestyle and eating well, you don't really need a multivitamin. But I still
Yeah.
take one for insurance. I have a good vegan multivitamin. I pop one after dinner at night just to kind of fill in the gaps what I might have missed. But the protein part of it after a hard workout, to answer that question, yeah, I'll usually have that Vega ready to go. That gets me started. But then I'll try to have a good meal after that that has some of the things I talked about. Um, and sometimes it might be just another, like a very large smoothie with lots of berries in it.
Okay.
Things like lots. I like very green smoothies. Things that
Okay.
have kale. Deborah brought one home the other day. She just couldn't drink, and I loved it. It had kale and it had. I don't
Okay.
think this one had beets in it because there was no red. One of my favorite smoothies is beets, kale, apples, lemons, uh, oranges.
Wow.
Gosh, what
Yeah.
else did we put in there? We have some more green stuff. Anything that's green, I kind of grab it and
Yeah.
throw it in there. You get
Yeah.
protein from those really green leafy vegetables as well.
Okay.
You can get protein there. So it makes it kind of fun to look around and learn and see where you can get your protein in different sources and stuff. But so far so good. Well, I'm getting back to hardcore training for myself, so I'm gonna probably have to pick it up soon so we can do part two to this when I start doing some more.
Sure.
So
And would you emphasize on this high protein, or would you just like say balanced nutrition with like probably like decent amounts of carbohydrates, decent amount of fats?
absolutely.
Yeah.
So what I hear you saying, asking me is, do I emphasize balanced, good nutrition?
I'm saying, are you someone who emphasizes on high protein meals? Like
Oh,
there's a
high
lot of
protein.
yeah,
Not necessarily high. Honestly, my protein needs are higher than I realized after I talked to. We have a nutritionist we work with named Amy Goodson. She's
yeah.
amazing, and I realized that protein requirements had gone up consider a little bit from what I was used to.
Okay.
So what I'm trying, and I'm not there now. I'm having to work on it to get more creative and get more in there. But there's
Okay.
ways to do it. It's just finding the time to do it, or being creative about it and taking the time to do it is what I want to say. But what I used to consider higher protein numbers now is normal. So I never really
Mhm.
was pushing like protein, because carbohydrate has always been the currency of endurance athletes. You
Sure.
know,
Yeah.
but you still have to have the protein in there and a decent amount of it. 60, 50, 60% protein. 40, 50% carbohydrate, depending on the situation. 10, 20%
Okay.
fats, good fats. Avocado, olive oil, of somebody that eats fish, omega 3s, omega 6s,
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff. Because fats are really important to transport nutrients and help with, inflammation and, kind of stuff that you probably are well aware of. So to answer that, no, never been really about pushing high protein. It always
Okay.
seems like that's always been the realm of more like bodybuilders, people that are trying to bulk up more, it seems to be.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
but protein, I know that you've talked about that, how you want to get more svelte.
Yeah.
But protein requirements I know have upped a little bit from when I first started. I hope does that answer it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That answers the question. Because while
Yeah.
growing up, I wasn't. My dad's a doctor, but he never emphasized on high protein meals. So it was
Yeah, yeah.
just like balanced
Right.
carbohydrates. Even now, he keeps yelling at me like, "Why do you eat so much meat? Just eat a little bit and eat a lot of veggies." I'm
I'm
like,
right
I
with
need.
your dad. Why
Yeah.
you eat so much meat?
So yeah,
Well, high protein, I think too is I hear what you're asking me now, and absolutely, I think balanced is, it's like at 58 years old now, being in the industry for 20 years now, 20 plus years, 20. I guess I'm coming up on 20 years that I've been doing it professionally, but I've been in
yeah,
the industry for 20 plus now, meaning the endurance community, we'll say.
yeah,
Um, I've seen. I'm going to use this. I don't mean it in a negative or mean way. Yeah, I've seen uh, nutrition fads come and go. You know what I'm
okay,
saying? And I've seen them go cyclical all the time, and they always come back to the same thing. What your dad's saying:
yeah,
a balanced diet with real
gotcha.
whole foods. I mean, you got the guy that's I can't remember his name. He's
Yeah,
wonderful talking about all the blue zones in the world, and that's
okay,
great. It's awesome. It's great. And what they're talking about, those people, if you look at them, they're eating. They're not skewing really on one thing or another higher, just
yeah,
eating balanced, real food. That's not something that's, thrown in a piece of plastic with a list of ingredients that long. It's just, you know, so
yeah,
I think absolutely balanced to answer your question more directly and simpler. Absolutely. I'm about a balanced diet for sure. But for triathletes, a little bit more carbohydrate from good sources, not simple sugars, but,
yeah,
vegetables, certain, grains and certain
like
beans and stuff like
rice and bread and stuff like that,
that.
right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. All the stuff that is been around is probably going to be around when you and I are long gone.
Yeah,
Who knows?
yeah. Let's get back to your race organization. You mentioned that you were organizing a lot of races. Take us through behind the scenes, what happens in organizing a race, any crazy behind the scenes, and how
Oh
hard
gosh.
it is to actually organize a race.
Yeah, that's what we should have you do sometimes. You can do a follow up and come follow me with a GoPro at an event sometime. I,
Yeah, I would love to do that.
oh my gosh. Yeah, to answer your question, and this is probably not an R rated show, so I'll say HE.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fine. I
um,
do a lot of f bombs and stuff like that,
well,
so
I'm
you
trying
can.
not to. I'm
Yeah,
trying not to let your listeners know that I've heard you. First time I met you,
yeah,
you dropped an F
yeah,
bomb when you were getting in the water. So, um, so I already know I got
yeah,
your number, buddy.
yeah.
Um, event production is something I never. If you would have asked me, I used to work in the restaurant industry,
Okay,
and that's what
yeah,
that was. I call this my second act.
I see. Okay,
I'm working on a third act eventually. Hopefully, the good Lord will give me enough years on the planet that I'll see it happen.
yeah,
But
okay,
my second act was the insurance industry. Insurance. I don't know where that came from. Restaurant
okay,
industry.
yeah.
And, running a restaurant on a busy Friday or Saturday night is just, it's a
So where were
high.
you running the restaurant? Was it here or was it
Yeah.
in New York? Oh,
Yep.
in Dallas.
I was in the
Okay.
restaurant industry for quite a few years. The last job I had, I
Yeah.
worked and I ran, I was a regional manager and then a general manager for a sports bar chain that
Okay.
had a lot of sports bars. So it was very alcohol related too, which was
Yeah.
extremely stressful. But the reason I bring that up with events is a busy Friday or Saturday night in a restaurant when things are humming and happening, you got people pouring in the door, you got the back of the house cooking, you got the
Yeah.
waitresses up front, the front of the house, you got the hostess, a bartender, whatever, all that stuff working together, that machinery to bring hopefully a good product to the person coming in spending really, you know, hard-earned money. They're coming in for an experience, and that's your job to give them an experience, not to just, kind of throw something out to them and say,
Yeah.
what do you want? Event direction is very much the same way in that in order for a restaurant to work, you've got to do a lot of, I call it, right now, I call it the three Ps. I call it prep, plan, 4 P's sometimes.
Okay.
I call it plan, prep, uh, perform, and produce.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
for me, the other end of that is I'm performing when I do an event and I'm producing something for somebody. That end result is somebody comes in and they do my event and they walk away and we have a lot of beginners do our events. So I've given them this first experience in triathlon, but before I get there, I've got to do a lot of planning, a lot of prepping, and then I have to implement all that and get it up with my staff and get it going. Well, it's the same thing in a restaurant. You got a crew that
Okay.
comes in the morning and preps food, and so it's very similar in that, but it's like doing an event is like having a really busy Saturday night at a restaurant. You're just especially a triathlon because you've got three events in one. You're producing a
Yeah.
swim, you're producing a bike, you're producing a run, and then you're putting them all together,
Yeah.
and they're all happening at the same time. So it's stressful. It's very stressful, um, and it's got its ups and downs for sure. But at the end of the day, when we're done with it, my wife and I will sit back and we always celebrate every victory. And by celebrate, we just, whether we sit in the back in our garden and have a glass of champagne,
Yeah.
or we go out to dinner somewhere or buy ourselves something small, we celebrate it because we actually were able to create something together. So event
Good.
production gives me kind of a different satisfaction than uh, coaching does, but they both bring me satisfaction because I'm able to do something for somebody else. With an event, we'll always ask people at the beginning. I'll always ask people. I'll say, "Hey, is this your first?" Everybody that's doing their first triathlon, raise their hand. And at the one we just did on Labor Day, gosh, Praneeth, maybe a
Yeah.
third of the crowd.
Wow.
It's a good number of people raised their arm
Yeah.
doing their first triathlon, and
Wow. Okay.
that's a lot of responsibility that I don't take lightly because that's their first experience, and they're going to remember that
Yeah.
experience the rest of their life. And if
Exactly.
they have a bad experience, they're going to remember that the rest of their life. If they have a good experience, you see somebody
They're
out
gonna
there
keep
with a
coming
sign,
back.
"Go, daddy, go." It's like, gets me teary-eyed. It's like we get to do that.
Yeah.
And, with all the other stuff that goes into it and the stress, worrying about paying the bills at the end of the day for the event and, just everything that comes with an event,
Yeah.
Debbie and I will step back and we'll try to remind each other to go take a minute and just look at what we're able to do for these people. And coaching is the same thing. Look,
Yeah.
I got to get you to go swim out to a swim buoy.
Yeah.
I
Thank
get
you.
paid
Yeah.
I get paid for that. So,
Yeah.
anyway, I went around the block on that one, but event production is, it'll make you old before your day. It used to be, I think, rated as one of the top stressful jobs being an event director, but, we're trying to diversify a little bit and do more. We're doing more bike rallies now, so we just focusing on one. We just picked up a we don't own it, but we're producing a
Producing.
bike
Yeah.
rally, helping bring it back called the Mesquite Rodeo Rally out in Mesquite starting next year. So
Gotcha.
those
Yeah.
are a little bit more a lot of work, ton of work, but you're not worrying about 3 events at the same time. You're worrying about 1 event.
One minute. Yeah.
So anyway, um,
Makes life a little easier.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, seriously. Should have my head examined sometimes, trust me.
Then, what do you think makes this race most memorable for the participants? Do you think like the course, or do you think like the way it's set up? Is it the ambience? Is it a combination of everything?
Um, I think it's a combination of all of that. That's a good question. I don't know that it's a straight ahead answer. It's
Yeah,
going to be different for everybody,
everybody. Yeah.
and because the thing about it is you can do everything, and this may sound negative, and I don't mean it to be at all. You can do you can do a lot of things to try to make sure that somebody has a good time, but at the end of the day, you can do all that stuff. You don't know where that person is when they come into the situation, what they're looking for as a way to feel like whatever they need to feel from doing it. So instead, what we focus on is we just focus on making sure that we stay within our value system as far as what we're bringing to people. We do our utmost to make it as safe as we can.
Okay.
We do our utmost to make sure it starts on time. Do our utmost to make sure we're bringing them a quality product, meaning that, registration fees are getting so expensive because the costs are getting expensive.
Yeah, I
We
know.
want people, we want people to feel like, it's just the costs behind the scenes of doing an event. I've shared it with you before
You know.
are just going through the roof. So that's why registration fees are going up. But making sure that somebody, when they pay that, a sprint triathlon, you know, used to cost 30, $40. Now they're, $90, 90 to
Maybe.
$120.
Yeah.
So making sure when somebody gets that, that you're covering the basics. It's clear, you're communicating with them in a clear manner, starting with a website. It doesn't have to be a fancy website, but be able to have the information they need there if that's where they want to get it.
Yeah.
Make sure the registration process is smooth, which is what my wife does. Make sure that if they have questions, you answer them and treat them like people and not like,
Yeah.
they're there for your whatever. So we really do our best to try to answer questions if people email us about them. We get a lot of, the week of the event, we get so many questions about things that it would be really easy to get cynical really quick if you're not careful. So I
Exactly.
think making sure that experience, just the basic things like that, treating people like people, is what's important, because then the experience they need to have, it's in their, it's up to them. They're going to have the experience they need to have for wherever they are and wherever the reason is they're doing the event. But if you're late and if you make it a challenge for them to register and it's not organized how to get there, they don't have that opportunity to blossom and evolve and do what they need to do. So, I wish I could say it was, I wish we had, hundreds of thousands of dollars in budgets where we could give them all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff, to make it
Yeah.
that. But I still think that if you give them a lot of stuff, but give them a bad experience on those other things, that it's not going to be enjoyable for them at the end of the day. And then, so I think that's a good question. I think that really would be it though, is making sure that, that happens. So it's not always easy because you do all that and you bury yourself with an event. You really take a lot of things on personally when you produce an event, and you have to kind of be willing to take. We always get one or two people that will just, scream at you about something that you had no idea happened, or what,
Yeah.
that you don't have control over. Because the thing about an event like that is you have volunteers. You can't do them without volunteers, and I can't
Yeah.
control everything they do. But you don't want somebody to have a bad experience. So I think the other part about that is learning to really listen to somebody if they complain. Even if it's something that may seem unrealistic, may seem
Okay.
bad to you, or may seem completely inappropriate within reason. And
Yeah.
I've had that extreme also. But if somebody
Yeah.
is in a certain place about something, really hearing them, and I think really listening to your customers is an important thing. I'm
Important.
not
Yeah.
saying I have it mastered, but I try to get a
Yeah.
little better about it each time I go.
Gotcha.
So hopefully
And
that answered
yeah,
it.
it does. So when did this decision or this inception happen for you to move from Act One from your restaurant to like Act Two, which is the Try Now Club? How did you start it? How did you build it, and how did you scale it? It's very scary to like being
Yeah,
a top manager at that firm of the sports bar. It's a comfortable money at the end of the bi-weekly stuff or whatever. To like starting this business, which
right.
literally starting from scratch. Like, tell us how did you scale it? And I feel it's the best in Texas, in Dallas right now. To be
Oh,
honest, yeah,
you're being very nice. You're just saying
yeah,
that because
because
you
I
want to get in. You're
no.
just saying that 'cause you want to get interview.
No, I
um,
truly mean it because not just even yeah, I can even if I watch oh you're the best coach, you can say oh
thanks.
yeah that's I don't believe, but still, like you look at our community, look at our group, they're all so much fun, so much welcoming. In. It's not just about the group, it's about the people in the group.
um, you know, um, so I think your original question might have changed by the end of that. Your original
Yeah,
question was, did it change or is it just me?
no,
What was
it's
your
fine. Yeah, it was a
original?
combination of questions. I think so. My original question was when did that inception happen?
Oh,
When you changed from the Act One to Act Two, how did you build it and how did you scale it?
it was a transitory process. There was an evolution that happened that started with the death of a sibling. My sister died from breast cancer about, gosh, it's
Okay.
been 20, oh
Sorry
my
about
gosh,
that.
I
Yeah.
forgot now. It was in April of 1990, probably got up on 25 years. Shame on me for not remembering. Um, she passed away from breast cancer. And at the time when
Okay.
she passed away, and I was in the restaurant business is a very unhealthy business to be in.
Okay.
It just is. I'm as busy as I was in the restaurant business. I'm as stress level is there, but it's a different kind of stress and it's a healthier life. In the restaurant business, you eat crappy.
Yeah.
I used to smoke. I used to smoke. I was a smoker. I'd smoke a pack to 2 packs a day of
Wow. Yeah.
cigarettes.
I used
Um,
to smoke too. I
you
love.
told me that. I was just like, I cannot see you smoking. Best thing I ever did for myself was quit smoking.
So when was the last time you had a smoke?
Me? Oh,
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Oh, wow,
Um,
okay.
Probably my late 20s.
Okay.
So, yeah, probably my
That's
late
also
20s.
good. Yeah, okay.
But I started she passed away, and at the time I was 210, 220 pounds, 210 pounds. So
Wow.
I wasn't obese, but I definitely wasn't healthy. It wasn't a
Yeah,
healthy weight.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I looked my skin was like white, you know, and so I made a commitment to just first of all change and do something to honor her. And it started with something very simple. I got really upset with myself for doing something to myself that could cause here's my sister who got breast cancer, loving
Okay.
mother, daughter, had a husband, great life, great, just an amazing person, much better person than I am. She was. Um, and she had something, that killed her. And I'm a healthy person and I'm putting crap in my body that, it just, it wasn't making sense to me. This was the genesis of a lot of things in my life. It's like, okay, you're destroying your body.
Yeah.
It seems disrespectful to somebody else who would love to be healthy that you've got a healthy body and you're destroying it. I was like, so you need to stop and change. And so I started it with that and really enjoyed it. Got into mountain biking, wanted to go raise money. And at the time, there wasn't a lot of the business model to where you could raise money for some kind of a cause, you know,
Yeah.
um, wasn't really as prevalent as it is now. I mean, now you've got so many. For a while, there was too many. Now there's still a lot, but not as many as there were. I did Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. I did a program with them. And
Okay.
at the time, Susan G. Komen wasn't even around at that time. So I did that. Loved it. Did a 50-mile mountain bike ride through Moab, Utah, and loved it. And got into triathlon after that, like in the mid '90s, and just loved it. And what happened? What that did was, without you know going around the block and talking, creating too much of a scenario where you have to edit so much out.
Yeah, it's okay.
That was the spark that started me to realizing I could feel better and do stuff with my life
Yeah.
instead of that there was another way to live. And so to fast forward a little bit, what happened was I realized that the industry I was in, the bar business, uh, when I
Okay.
left this planet, if I had left this planet, 2 decades ago, or if I'm blessed enough to live till I'm 100,
Yeah.
I don't want my legacy to be that I ran a sports bar. I didn't want my
Yeah.
contribution to humanity to be, oh, he got me drunk at happy hour. And
Yeah.
that's oversimplifying it, but all I did was feed people a cold beer and
Yeah.
shitty food. And it killed me. And so
Yeah.
literally had a bicycle wreck,
Okay.
and I had an epiphany at the same time. I was all hopped up on painkillers. I had broken my
Oh,
hand,
shit. Okay.
and it was an epiphany. I was like, "Oh my god, I want to coach." And I started figuring out how to get a coaching certification and learn how to coach and how I
Okay.
was going to get out of the restaurant business. Well, I was helped out of it. The guys I worked for fired me. They downsized and they fired me, which came
Yeah.
as a complete surprise. But literally,
Yeah.
my wife was one of my managers at one of the
Mm.
restaurants. They fired her and me on the same
Yeah.
day because,
Yeah.
and that's another whole story in and of itself. But you know
Yeah.
what? If I use the term psychodrama, do you know what that is? A
Yeah.
psychodrama?
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
a psychodrama for me because I had
Okay.
been my identity and my validity, or not my
Yeah.
validity. I validated myself by being thought of as Frank Cortese,
Yeah.
the former bartender, now
Yeah.
manager of this sports group. That's what everybody knew me as. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden, even though I was into triathlon or just starting,
Yeah.
this has been cut and taken away from me. Well,
Yeah.
fast forward now, it's the best thing that could have happened to me because that psychodrama kind of
Mhm.
let me be that without sounding like a big cheese ball, that phoenix that was able to rise out of that and really become
Yeah.
what I wanted to be. Because I would have never quit that job. It was a great
Got
paycheck. I still don't
yeah.
make the kind of money I used to make in the restaurant
Yeah.
business. I made a lot more money in the restaurant business. I had another
Okay.
restaurant chain. I will say
Okay.
the name of this restaurant chain.
Yeah.
Um, it's Razoo's.
Oh,
Um,
no shit. Okay.
I
Yeah.
opened the original Razoo's. Matter of fact, Razoo's.
Oh, there's one right here, like,
Yeah,
close
yeah.
to where I live. Yeah.
Back in the day in Richardson, right off of 75, Razoo's was there,
Yeah.
and, that's where I met my wife. That's where I met Debbie,
Oh,
working
okay.
at Razoo's,
Yeah.
but it was owned by a guy named Mike Leatherwood. I don't know if I don't he's not actively involved in it anymore. I don't know what his interests
Okay.
are, but he had started a barbecue chain called Bone Daddies,
Okay.
And they were going to hire me and put me to work, and I probably would have made more money
Yeah.
than I was making at the other place. But
Yeah.
Debbie looked at me and she said,
Yeah.
"No." I came home from the interview and she said, "You're not going back in the
Mhm.
restaurant business." And here
Yeah.
we are today. So
Okay.
it took an amazing partner,
Yeah.
wife, and friend to get me there.
Yeah.
But that's kind of it. And that's the abridged version of it. That's the Cliff Notes
Gotcha.
version of
Understood. What was the challenges of scaling it?
it. That's a continuing challenge to this day.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
yeah. Um, of scaling the event side or coaching side or both.
Both, like just scaling try now.
Scaling China now. It's honestly, Praneeth, it's a changing field. It seems like it changes every year, but we're in the middle right now. Debbie and I have had already had 3 meetings. We're in the
Yeah.
middle of planning 2025 right now, and trying to
Wow.
figure
Yeah.
out how to. Things have been different since COVID.
Yeah.
I don't mean to
Exactly.
I don't mean to bring everything to COVID, but I think all of us almost have to. Before COVID
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
after COVID,
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
it just is. And so before COVID, the club was almost at 100 people, which, from the fiscal standpoint, that was revenue coming in that could help us do things and kind of build the club and
Yeah.
do whatever we were going to do pre-COVID. And after COVID, it collapsed. We didn't work for a year and a half. I
Yeah.
gardened and did a lot of woodworking.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
but the challenge with I'll talk to the coaching side of it first, has been
Yeah. Sure.
how to adapt what we did before, because the business model we had before COVID is just not there anymore. We used to have 9 to 12 workouts a week before COVID,
Wow.
2
Okay.
swims, we had 3 runs, 2 bikes, we had just all kinds of stuff people would come to.
So amazing. Yeah.
After COVID, you might get, in 2021, we came back and started doing just a few workouts,
Yeah.
and we didn't do hardcore training. We said, "Hey, let's just touch each other, hug each other, and come back out, and
Yeah.
just we'll have some fun and get outside." Nothing was hardcore. In 2022, we tried to come back up and bring it back up to where we were before that. So we got all the workouts back up, and at that point, I was the only coach. I was coaching all of them, and
Yeah.
nobody was coming to them. I'd be like one person at a workout. A lot of
Yeah.
times it was me by myself. Many times, or me and David Fuller.
Yeah.
Um, we learned was during COVID, a lot of people learned how to train on their own.
Oh,
And
okay.
technology made that possible. Plus, they got used to it, and all the new people coming in, like yourself, and
Yeah.
to give you a contemporary current example, Bobby, and I could go on and on and on.
Yeah.
Young professionals like you
Yeah.
learn how to do things and train and not have to be with a group. Not that they didn't want to be, they just didn't need it.
Yeah.
And so before, where you could do a 6 o'clock workout in the morning or at night and people would come, we used to have a Wednesday night run power workout. It was hills and trails. We have 20 people come to it and run at 6:30
Oh,
at
okay.
night,
Oh, that's
and,
awesome. Yeah.
so the biggest challenge has been, how do you maintain something that, because really what I do is a intangible thing, kinda. It's not a pen or a widget.
Yeah.
What I do really is I'm selling me and hopefully a service to support somebody to do something. So how do you monetize that to where you can pay the bills? And that's probably the biggest challenge, because, we don't have a product per se, like something that's packaged as somebody goes to the store online, go to the store. Gosh, that's not even, I just put myself, that was so 2023, wasn't it? Or
Yeah.
2000 and something. But that's probably the biggest challenge right now, is how do we assimilate into and support people? And we've got some really exciting stuff, I think, for next year. But this year has been probably the best year since COVID, 2024.
Gotcha.
We have
Okay.
tons of new people coming on the team. We're learning how we can meet them where they're at. Being able to work with somebody that's a beginner, like you're a beginner in swimming, but you've got
Exactly.
Justin.
Yeah.
Justin was back. You weren't there last Thursday, were you?
I was there. I met Justin for the first time last
Justin's,
Thursday. Yeah.
besides being an amazing guy, he's an incredible athlete. He
Yeah.
swims his 100 time is like a minute and 25.
Fuck,
You
that's
know,
awesome. Yeah.
he used to be on the SMU swim team. He's a
Yeah. Wow.
he's a
Yeah.
young professional like you.
Yeah.
But my point in all that is
Yeah.
how you have something that can be there to support you in the pool, and Justin is probably the
Yeah.
biggest challenge. How do you have
Exactly.
something that you can, make a living at, that is of service to people? And that's really where we're at, is just how we have to just stay focused on that. How can we be of service to people? And that's really what Try Now is. It's a service to help people reach their goals. So we, uh, the other side of it, the event side of things is, pretty much like what I said. How do we get registrations up, keep costs from just exploding too high,
Yeah, I
but
know.
create a name for ourselves that's a brand to where we can get sponsors. We don't have a ton of sponsors for our events because we don't have time to go look for them. But hopefully, we built a brand that if we can start to get out there and say, "Hey, we've got this great event. You want to put your name on it?" People will be like, "Oh, wow, sure." So that's
Yeah.
really the biggest challenge: is finding those sponsors to help the events stay healthy and do the things with the events that we want to do. So I think from the event side of things, that's probably our utmost challenge right now. Registrations are coming back; they're picking up, more and more and more. But registrations are not what they were before COVID for anybody. You know,
Gotcha.
uh,
Yeah.
it took a while for everybody to get back up. So yeah, I hope some of that was in there. I hope there were some nuggets in there.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Because even the registrations, when you compare it to New Jersey, it's still okay. I feel like 90, $95 for a sprint triathlon. But the
Yeah.
same thing in New Jersey is even more expensive. Like I think 180, 190 just for the sprint triathlon. So
Yeah, yeah. Oh, 181. Where did you see a sprint for that much? Did you see when
I
that
think I saw it somewhere. I don't know. I don't remember. It's
wow.
one of the races. Yeah, I think 140, 150 for a sprint triathlon.
Well, I
And
I mean, I don't mind saying it. Again, I'm trying to leave brand names out of it, but there's another very well thought of brand in triathlon, much bigger than I am, that, to do one of their races, it was like 425,
wow.
$417. And and when I say that, I'm not saying that knocking that
Yeah,
company. I'm saying that, oh
yeah,
my, I'm talking strictly just about the cost of registering.
yeah.
It's just, police costs. Well, a good example is, we help out we don't help out. We get paid to produce a 5K for the Dallas Lutheran School. And they do it.
Gotcha.
It's called Lions and Lederhosen in October. It's a 5K. It's a fun event. You
Yeah,
know, um, we enjoy doing it. It's in late October. Um, police officers used to be 40 to $50 an hour, whether they worked 5 minutes or whether they worked 4 hours. Though you had to pay
yeah,
them for 4 hours.
yeah.
They're $75 now minimum per
Wow,
hour. If
so
they stand
expensive.
on the corner for 15 minutes, you're paying them for
Yeah,
4 hours and $75. So I'm not blaming it just on police support because you
yeah, I
need
know
them,
it's so expensive. Yeah,
but that cost, along with the other costs, shirts, timing, it just is getting to where coning an event, the traffic control to make an event safe to put cones out on the road. If I told you some of those numbers, you'd be like, "What?" So,
yeah,
but anyway, so somebody that's got an event that expensive, who knows? And they might have a good, also people expect more. You didn't used to at a sprint triathlon get a finisher medal, get a
yeah,
really really nice shirt. A lot of the things you get way back when you didn't get those things, and the costs were down. But then once people started to offer that as a race, people came in and expected it, and it's not their fault. They didn't know any
yeah,
different. They're
yeah.
like, "You don't have a finisher medal?" It's like, "A what?" And we all had to start doing finisher medals, which made the cost go up. That's a couple of dollars per person. So anyway,
Yeah,
I could go on and on and on, but
no, that's fine. Yeah,
it's still fun to do.
yeah. Because you mentioned that if you were you at like maybe 5, 10 years in the past, you wouldn't start this model because you were like, it's impossible to survive. So, what would you advise any new entrepreneurs or someone wanting to start this kind of modular business? How to survive? Trip? Any tips and any tricks?
I, you know,
Yeah.
that's a was that on my list of stuff? Darn you! Because the reason I'm
Yeah.
saying that
Yeah. Yeah.
is
Yeah. Sure.
because I was just about
Yeah.
to say I would tell them don't start,
Yeah.
but that's not me. And I had a guy
Yeah.
tell me that when we
Yeah.
started, and I made sure he got me angry enough. I was like, "Oh, I'm going to
Yeah.
succeed because you said that." And this guy that
Yeah.
said it was in the industry, and he's not in the industry anymore. He was kind of
Yeah.
a curmudgeon, and
Okay.
that's just a negative thing to say to somebody when somebody's got there's different ways you can.
Yeah.
I try not to be that person that offers unsolicited advice.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
if somebody hasn't asked me for advice, I don't want to mansplain them to use an
Yeah.
overused metaphor or term or whatever that is.
Yeah.
But so I want to answer it and not just use that escape. mechanism, which is, oh, don't get into the business.
Yeah.
I would say that if somebody was going to get into business today, I would tell them to, and I'll answer from the standpoint of not being somebody who has like a, so there's a charity, a really good friend that I know right now. Matter of fact, I just forgot that he
Yeah.
asked about, oh, somebody just pinged me. I have an appointment coming up at 7. I got
Okay.
to go to. I totally forgot because I got talking.
That's
Let
fine.
me answer your question. So
Yeah.
it this individual that wants to talk to me, he wants me to help him because his charity, his 501(c)(3) wants to
Okay.
do a fundraiser. And it used to be that events like this, like what I do as a business model, what Ironman does, what a lot of the, not all the marathons, New York Marathon, Dallas Marathon, they're all run by a board. They
Yeah.
contribute big to parks and recreation. They do things in the community. Great.
Okay.
But doing events as a business model to where you're trying to make a buck like Ironman does is a new thing of the past couple of decades. And I'm not knocking Ironman at all.
Yeah.
The only reason I'm bringing that up is I think you kind of have to divide that and say, look, this person had approached me and said, hey, I have this wonderful, he works for this really great, oh my gosh, just forgot the name of it. He's going to kill me because I don't mind saying it on your podcast. Um,
It's okay.
uh, Dallas Pets Alive.
Okay.
Shout
Yeah.
out to Dallas Pets Alive and Scoot. Um, they do great things for animals
Okay.
that are like sick or unhealthy or abandoned, where they take them, they get
Okay.
their medical bills paid, and they get them adopted out. They want to do a fundraiser. And so Scoot contacted me, and the first thing in my mind was like, "Oh my gosh, there's a lot of other ways you can raise funds." And I was like,
Yeah.
"No, that's being negative. Why not be honest with him and tell him the cost involved?" And my point in bringing that up is, if you're a 501(c)(3) and you want to do an event, I think you
Okay.
can do one. But I think what you approach it, the tip for me would be approach it from the standpoint of finding a venue that can help you keep the cost down, that keeps you off city streets, because then your police
Okay.
costs are down, your permitting, you're just using a trail. So initially, the tip would
Okay.
be, if you're a charity looking to make money, find a venue that's conducive to do your event in, that you can do something to where it's something that's not on city streets. Something that's
Okay.
self-contained in an area to where your costs are going to be down, because you've already got built-in business and registrations because people are going to want to take care and help your charity. Okay. So I
Sure.
think
Yeah.
that's from that standpoint. And then on top of that, have some kind of a shtick. Like I talked to them about, hey, do they want to do a dog walk, run? And something that's getting really popular is doing those dog walks and runs together, but do one around Halloween where you dress up your pet, and just, but do it on a trail in a park somewhere where you can make it a really great experience, but keep costs down. So now from the other side, if somebody was to come to me, somebody in their 20s that just would be excited about putting on an event and making money for themselves, maybe starting a company and making money. It's a lot of work. If you look at the
Yeah.
P&L for an event, any good businessman would be like, no, it's not a good investment. The amount of time and
Yeah.
labor and resources used for the return is not big.
Yeah.
But I think, the right young minds coming into it could build something. And what they would need to do is take and find, I keep going to the word shtick, but going to something that brings kind of a new twist on what you're doing. There's something I want to formulate and tell you that I have there,
Mm.
Praneeth, to answer that. This is a
Yeah.
good question because it's making me really think.
Sure.
Um, I think it's something that would have to get people excited, that would get people excited, but have them think differently about something that's been going on. Triathlon's been going on since the 70s now. So you can
Yeah.
put on the triathlon like what we do. It's good, it's organized, all the things I talked about, those things. But how do you do that and take it and bring people something that maybe has a unique twist on that, within reason? Now, people tried that for a while. You had color runs, you had all these different runs that were done
Yeah.
to where, they were, it was getting crazy for a while. People were doing runs that were just,
I
hey,
know.
let's run down the street and throw something to people and, and call it, believe in what you're doing. If you really have a passion for it and you really enjoy doing it, and go into it and look at the cost involved first. I hate to start with
Sure.
something boring,
Sure.
boring like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
but go into it and
Yeah.
think about what you want to do, and just see if that thing that you can do, if there's a way that you can replicate that and do it.
You're crushing it. Even at this age, you're crushing it. I don't mean you're old, but still, even at this age, you're so fast in your run, you're so efficient in your bike, and you're so good in your swim. What is the secret behind your fitness?
Consistency,
Okay.
consistency. Um, it's just, it's keeping going, getting up and just keeping going, and not. There's a guy waving at me in the window, a neighbor. I'm trying to tell him that we're in the middle of something. He's at my window waving. I'm like,
Oh, okay, okay.
um, consistency, just keeping going,
Sure.
enjoying it, enjoying the journey. Um, uh, Stopping sometimes and not making it just about with blinders on about just hardcore training all the time, but just really getting up and making sure that if you, I hate to make this comparison, but it's like when I quit smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
The biggest mistake I ever made was when I used to share with people, "Hey, I'm going to quit
Yeah.
smoking." And you like
Yeah.
sneak a cigarette, and they go, "I thought you quit."
Yeah.
And then you'd be like, "Oh, I didn't quit," and you go
Yeah.
back and smoke again.
Yeah.
You know, um, to use a really bad metaphor, but it works. If
Yeah.
you fall off the bike, get back on it and just keep
Exactly.
doing it.
Yeah.
And I mean that because
Sure.
later in life, I see so many people of my age that have stopped moving and they're just kind of shrinking and they're just kind of,
Yeah.
they're getting sick and
Yeah. I know.
it's just not, it's just not, it's just not doing the same things. But I think also accepting and knowing that as you change and get older, you can't necessarily train the way you were, but that doesn't mean you can't still train. You just have to adjust what you're doing and
Gotcha.
adapt you know, to your changing body. So listening to your body would probably be the next big thing. Paying attention to what your body's telling you. If you need a little bit more recovery, take a little bit more recovery. So train smarter, not harder, as you get
Gotcha.
older. But
Understood. Yeah.
staying in the game and being consistent. Hey, I'm doing that with myself right now. Well, I don't have it in front of me, but
Yeah.
this is my most prized possession. Every year I start one of these. It's called a passion planner. And I
Okay.
decorate it with
Yeah.
different things on top. And
Yeah.
it's a daily planner, but it's not. It's called a passion planner. And
Okay.
you can see what I put at the top.
Yeah.
Even though it's reversed right now, it says consistency to
I
focus.
can see it properly. Yeah. Consistency
You
focus.
can,
Yeah.
okay. And the reason I'm sharing that with you is I every year I put down for the start of the year. Deborah got me started on this about 8 years ago, and we read something that Bill Gates' wife, Melinda Gates, ex-wife
Yeah.
now, she
Yeah.
said every year she starts the year with she comes up with her word of the year. And so every
Okay.
year now I sit down and I start working on it in November so that by the time December gets here, I've got my word and that sets my intent for the rest of the year. And for me this year, it's been being consistent because I haven't been as consistent with my training as I was 4, 5,
Okay.
6 years ago. And so instead of worrying about, doing tons of anything, I'm just making sure that I'm staying consistent and keeping going on. The reason I put consistency to focus is I've got some goals for myself on to do by 60. And
Yeah.
as a coach and an athlete lifelong, I was like, I got to jump back in and do this and do this. And I was like, whoa, why don't we start with Kaizen
Yeah.
steps first, baby steps, and just do, you know, make sure and be consistent. Get on the bike,
Sure.
go to the pool, put your shoes on. And honestly, working out with you guys, showing up for a run on Tuesday morning, getting to see you at the lake,
Yeah.
that helps hold me accountable too. So
Yeah.
there's a couple different things, finding those things that help you stay accountable as you get older, to stay consistent, learning to train smarter, not harder, and
Sure.
surrounding yourself with good people. I get to surround myself with
Gotcha.
some amazing people that I get to watch grow, and it makes me want to grow. So,
Understood. Yeah.
watching my athletes, succeed and accomplish these amazing things made me go, okay, I want to stay in it and I want to keep doing it because for a while, what I do became a job. And for a couple of years, I was in a place, I was not in a good place to where triathlon was a job and I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I wasn't enjoying it. And honestly,
Yeah.
COVID gave me perspective and
Yeah.
now I love it again. So anyway,
Gotcha. Yeah. Perfect. So one last question for the
yeah.
day. You have accomplished so much already in your life. You're the best coach out there. Not saying to flatter you this, but that's the truth. The day
Always,
one I spoke with you, I was like, yes, I want to get coached under this man.
you're being so nice. Somebody
Yeah.
paid you to do this.
So what excites you for the future?
The opportunity to evolve
Okay.
personally and to the opportunity to help others achieve and evolve themselves. Really, it is the more and more and more I sit and think about it, the opportunity for me to continue to grow. I hope I never stop growing.
Sure. Yeah.
The other saying I have on this book, you can't really see it; it's faded. But my word of the year turned into a
Yeah.
phrase of the year that I had on my wrist, but it broke.
Okay.
And what this says right below that is I wrote on there, I never felt I knew it all, but I
Okay.
always thought I knew enough. And so I kind of think I reached a point where I felt like I was just kind of going through the motions and doing stuff. And I was like, whoa, I want to continue to learn and not think,
Yeah.
I've never been the type of person that thinks I know it all, but I wasn't learning. I wasn't evolving and growing as a coach. I had enough to get by, and that's what I was doing. And what really has excited me, and right now has for many years, I know it's going to continue, is just the opportunity to continue to grow, meet people like, I'm going to give you for a second, meet guys like
Okay.
you. You're
Thank you.
you're
Yeah.
a completely different personality and person that
Yeah.
I've never had in my life. I'm going to
Yeah.
grow because of you. And
Okay.
so having that opportunity is what excites me because
Sure.
you made me sit down and do a podcast today and think about some answers. I'm going to grow from that. So yeah.
Sure.
So the
Yeah.
opportunity to evolve and grow excites me. New experiences and the opportunity to share that and do my small part to help somebody else do the same thing. So,
Absolutely.
I hope that your opportunity in the water helps you do a triathlon and,
Absolutely. Yeah.
enjoy the heck out of it. So,
Exactly. Yeah. I'm so excited for the rest of the year and the upcoming years because, like I said, I'm truly in love with your coaching and everything
thank
else
you.
we try now. Thank you
I
so much.
appreciate that. I do,
And
Praneeth. I
may you
really do.
continue inspiring many, many athletes like me.
Thanks. Thanks.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Active Hour podcast. We hope you loved the episode. If you did, please give us some love in the reviews. Guess what? No ChatGPT was used in the making of this episode. Until next time, bye.